Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Ted Lasso, Season 1, Episode 6, Two Aces is the episode I am talking about this time around. I would have to say this is probably my favorite episode so far. This is an episode starting off with Ted being somber music playing and Ted very emotional, taking off his wedding ring after in the previous episode his wife pretty much let him know that she was done, and it, you know, they'd moved apart, not only geographically but also emotionally. So it's him dealing with that. He's all flustered. It's the first time we've seen Ted not only flustered, but we're seeing like angry Ted Lasso in this episode. But it starts off, Ted's flustered. He gets to work. He finds out that Manchester City is potentially going to be taking Jamie back. They loaned Richmond Jamie for the season, and since he was benched in the previous episode, they are threatening to take him back. But Ted Lasso's got a plan. And in this episode, despite the fact that we're seeing a Ted Lasso that is subpar as far as his positivity, he's definitely on the other side of the emotion spectrum. This episode is chock full with a new injection of some new joy and positive energy in this new character from Mexico called Dani Rojas, who is nothing but just a big ball of energy. He's basically took the torch of Ted Lasso for the previous seasons. And as Ted has been dealing with everything and it's been weighing him down, his home life, his work life, everything seems to be against Ted Lasso. And it's finally gotten to him in this episode. But picking up that energy baton and running it around the field like a madman is Dani Rojas. And I love Dani Rojas. Like, you can't watch his character on screen and not smile. Like, you can't feel joy emanating from within you watching Dani Rojas enjoying playing soccer. I mean, these are well-paid grown men playing a child's game professionally. You should be that kind of happy to be doing such a ridiculous thing for so much money. And of course, Jamie, jealous of Dani Rojas, because not only is Dani full of energy, but the dude is talented, and we get to see his skills playing soccer, which is very interesting because I don't think they've really shown much of the other. I don't know how much experience these actors actually have playing soccer, but Dani Rojas, whether he's actually a good soccer player, I don't know how they did it, but it looked legit, and he looked awesome. And Jamie is a little, his ego is hurt, which he says he's not going to practice because he is hurt. And this is where we get not only Ted Lasso being flustered, but this is Ted Lasso using I believe is Allen Iverson speech about not having to practice, how the reporters are asking him questions about why he didn't show up to practice, and Allen Iverson's like, listen, I'm an all-star, and you're talking about practice, which is a classic scene in the sports world interview kind of a segment of reality. But we're seeing Ted Lasso turn that on his head, where he is telling Jamie about practice and how important practice is. And it's like your first time you're seeing Ted angry, you're seeing Ted yell, and you even get the Dutch angle on Ted while he's yelling at Jamie just to further express how different the other side of Ted Lasso can be. And it's an amazing speech. Not only the fact that it repurposed the speech in a way that made perfect sense for that moment, It felt good to see Ted Lasso put Jamie in his place for once, in front of the entire team, and Ted telling Jamie at the end of it since he's injured, to go set up the cones for the other substitutes to pass the ball around. And the other players kind of supported Ted in that decision, really knocking Jamie down a peg, and further humbling him after him wanting to whine about Dani Rojas taking some of his spotlight, his shine. You see in this episode, Dani Rojas and Jamie play some horse. Jamie's out there kind of just thinking, pouting after practice, and kicks the ball, and it hits one of the crossbars of the net, and Dani walks up, and he thinks like he did whether he did it on purpose or not, but they end up playing a game of horse, where they're calling spots on the goal to hit the ball off of. And they were doing good. I mean, Jamie is competitive, so rising to the opportunity to kind of battle for, Jamie thinking he's battling for alpha position with Dani, but they kind of bond in some way. I mean, they definitely, I believe, you gain some respect. You tend to gain respect for somebody that you compete against, whether you win or lose. At least you should. If you're on the top of your game, there's very few people that are, comparable to your skill set and what you bring. So when, there's somebody of equal measure, tends to result in respect. You see that a lot in MMA for sure. But yeah, they play some horse, which is a lot of fun. They bond a bit. Then it cuts to Keeley walking into Rebecca's office, talking about how she's been researching all the players to get these endorsement deals, reading all their bios and how interesting they all are. And then she, thinking that she's going to go in to comfort her new friend after the recent bad news in the tabloids, Keeley finds out that she's going to be the one delivering that bad news. And the bad news being that Rebecca's ex-husband, Rupert, is dating another girl who is also named Rebecca. So the press has thus labeled Rebecca, the coach of Richmond, AFC Richmond. They have labeled her Old Rebecca, and the new Rebecca is just called Rebecca. So further just showing the disrespect that Rebecca is dealing with in the tabloids, but also a scene that shows, how much Keeley and Rebecca have bonded. I mean, they kind of talk shit to each other, and the Rebecca's assistant is blown away. He's like, I can't imagine what would happen to me if I told you to fuck off, like Keeley did. And it's like he just, he's not bonding. He's not the girl bonding. It's the same thing. It's just reverse of what it's been. The gender bonding. Cutting people out. Which is fine. It's funny in that scene, and then you go. So there's that scene, and then you see Dani Rojas and Jamie playing horse actually, and then it pans up into the seats, and you have the two coaches, Ted Lasso and Coach Beard, and they're talking about how watching them play horse, how the team has two aces now. That Dani's an ace, clearly showed to be so during practice. And Jamie's already proven himself. It's just all about trying to get Jamie to bond with the rest of the team and become a teammate instead of just it all being about him. And then, of course, the aces. And then it cuts to inside. Roy's on a treadmill, still reading his book. And Keeley comes up, and they have a little bonding moment where she kind of lets him know that she's been reading his bio along with all the other players, and that she's just appreciates his story and what he came from. It's just a small little moment showing their bonding, while Roy is showing that he's still invested in this book and trying to learn and hopefully become the leader or the teammate that Ted Lasso wants him to be for the team. So they bond, and then it cuts back out to the field where Dani Rojas is still playing around on the field, dribbling the ball. and falls down. He gets injured, and that is where we see that the treatment room. There's a long-standing suspicion, superstition that the treatment room at their facility is haunted. And Nate saw Dani in the treatment room earlier in the day and didn't tell anybody. But that is what they believe to be the cause of Dani's injury, that a ghost took him out because he went into that haunted room. Where, now it's this completely new supernatural kind of a thing that's happening, not happening, potentially happening in the thing. Like another thing that Ted Lasso, it's like, oh, now there's this haunted aspect of this our facility that our players can't go into. So they have this giant pub. They go to the local pub where Ted goes to. They have a giant team meeting at the pub, and to talk about the history. And the history of that training room is during World War II. They set up posters around town saying that local men should try out for the new soccer team, that there's open tryouts. But it was a bait and switch. When they showed up to the stadium, they found out that it was to be recruited for the war. And where they did all the physicals is in the treatment room, and that is why it is haunted. So they have this meeting during the pub, and it's a great scene because you see some of the patrons that have been talking crap about Ted Lasso, and it's just a pub that's vocal about their team. But when their entire team is in the pub, word spreads quick, and the meeting ends with cheering fans outside. And then it cuts to the sacrifice that they have to do. Ted tells everybody at the meeting, like, bring something that means a lot to you, that you would hate to give up, but means a lot to you, has a lot of backstory, has a lot of meaning to you. Bring that, and we're going to sacrifice it in order to hopefully release these spirits from haunting us. So it's this great scene where, they're all at night huddled in this treatment room, big barrel, and you get to see kind of just little sprinkles of what the personality is for all these teammates. Like one guy pours out sand from a beach from the first time he slept with a supermodel. You got Sam, who has a picture of his national team from where he's from. And he said that he would never get rid of that photo until he made the team, and it's still a dream that he has. You get to see Jamie shows up, like, out of nowhere. Jamie, like, there's these scenes where Sam goes to invite Rebecca to the thing, and that's actually a really good scene before the sacrifice, when Sam goes into Rebecca's office to invite her to this special team sacrifice meeting. And they have a little conversation. He talks about how he's a big fan of the Harry Potter books, and he has this great saying that he says, I love the idea of, it's in comparison to J.K. Rowling versus the Queen of England, and how he loves J.K. Rowling so much more because this line that he says, which is, I love the idea of someone becoming rich for what they gave to the world and not just because of who their family is. Which is exactly the difference between J.K. Rowling and the Queen of England, is that the Queen is given a status just because of her friends, which happens in this country a lot too. Like Kardashians that really give nothing to the world and yet are treated like royalty just because of their name. Or Trump, in some circles of this country, value his family's worth. And versus an artist like J.K. Rowling or any artist that really gives something to the world, it's just an awesome is an awesome quote, and a really something that I agree with, and amazing. But anyway, so that's a scene that happens when Sam's inviting Rebecca. So during the sacrifice itself. It's a surprise that not only Jamie shows up, but also Rebecca shows up to this. So it becomes like a really big bonding moment because they're all sharing these personal stories and like you're seeing these items that really mean a lot. And Jamie brings these like cleats that he has, and he tells the story about his mom just loving that he does what he does, and then but he's really tried to please his dad in a lot of ways, and has turned him into a man that he doesn't want to be, and that his mom probably wouldn't be too happy with who he's become. And it's really a scene where you see Jamie finally, it seemed like Jamie was coming around when him and Roy had that bonding moment at the fundraiser. But the next episode, that was completely, thrown away. I mean, Jamie was right back to who he was. But this was a time where Jamie finally had the realization, not only just to show up, but also to share and have that realization that he's not happy with who he has become. And you're seeing Rebecca there bond. I mean, you see the whole team bonding. They take the barrel of sacrifice out to the field, and they light it on fire. And surprise, surprise, Ted has a surprise for everybody, and brings Dani Rojas, who is all good. He is all healthy. Brought him out to celebrate, and Dani Rojas brought a bottle of mezcal, and they drink. It's this big bonding moment where Dani and Jamie are bonding. They're passing the bottle around to all the teammates. You got the coach there, the owner there, the assistants there. Everybody's bonding. Everybody is happy and bonding, and Rebecca's not happy. Rebecca leaves. She doesn't want to be part of it. Part of her still wants to destroy this team. And you find out the next morning when Ted comes into work. He finds out from Coach Beard, storms into Rebecca's office, still angry. This whole episode, angry Ted. At no point, the only positivity in this entire episode comes from the amazing Dani Rojas. He is the bright, shining sun of positivity in this episode. And Ted Lasso is the contrast to that. He is the cold-hearted, I'm tired of this shit guy, and he storms into Rebecca's office, yelling at Rebecca because she let Jamie go. She let Man City take Jamie, and she's playing it off like, "Well, I thought that's what you wanted to do. You pulled him from the thing." And Ted's like, "We finally got him. I've been working so hard to reach this guy and to bring him in, and you saw it last night. You saw him become part of the team. You saw him bonding." And of course she saw him bonding. And that's why she did it, because she's still trying to sabotage the team. She threw away one of their aces. They had two aces, which is the name of this episode, but she threw it away by the end. And Ted's so flustered, right? He's like, he storms out, right? Because he's angry. And he just doesn't want to be angry at her, doesn't want to push that energy at her because she's still his boss. So he goes to storm out. But he remembers he still has the biscuits for her in his backpack, so he digs them out and gives them to her. And in his flustered moment, he lets loose the reality. He lets it slip that he's been baking the biscuits, and he's so angry that he has to give them to her. He hopes they're the worst ones yet, but he knows that he just cracked the recipe, and he's so angry. So Rebecca caught that. So Rebecca. Ted probably didn't realize it. Rebecca sees that Ted has put all this time into baking these biscuits for her and trying to not only bake, but bake great biscuits for her. But yeah, so it ends on kind of a down note. It started with a down note with Ted removing his wedding ring in a very somber manner, and ending in a very down note. In some ways, because just as Jamie was starting to bond with the team, he's been sent off. But at least they have Dani Rojas, who, while Ted is being bummed out inside of his office with the other coaches, Dani pokes his head in and reminds Ted that football is life. And that's, Dani's kind of mantra for life, is football is life. And for him, I mean, it's a true statement for him, because he just loves it. It just nothing else matters to him but the ability to go out there and play his favorite thing. And it's kind of a moment, just a spark of just kind of a reignition almost of Dani Rojas going to Ted Lasso. And it's like, here's a little positivity to remind you, put you in perspective that even though Jamie's gone, it's not, I mean, it's a thing of like, you're counting chickens before they hatch, and things are always going to change in life. And it's just about rolling with the punches and just enjoying the things that you enjoy doing and putting your energy into those things and trying not to focus on the negative things that happen, because things happen like that all the time. And it's more important to remember that football is life. So that is the end of episode 6, 2 Aces. Until next week, get yourself some amazing coffee over at stationhousecoffee.com and follow Station House Coffee on Instagram. Order yourself some small batch, single origin, premium coffee brewed in Thetford Center, Vermont, and shipped directly to you. So head on over to stationhousecoffee.com and order your coffee today, and follow Station House Coffee on Instagram. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com, and follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!